The signal from beyond. The alert klaxon tore Commander Elena Reyes from a fitful sleep, red emergency lights bathing her quarters in a crimson glow. She was on her feet and moving before her conscious mind fully engaged, muscle memory from 15 years of service to the Terran Defense Fleet guiding her through the practiced motions. "Status report," she demanded, striding onto the bridge of the research vessel Aurora. The ship wasn't large by military standards, but its sensors were among the most advanced humanity had designed. Right now, those sensors were screaming. Lieutenant Cade swiveled in his chair, dark eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Commander, we've detected an anomalous signal at coordinates 227.89 by 116.43. Nothing like it in our databases." Elena moved to his station, studying the oscillating pattern on his display. The signal pulsed with an almost hypnotic rhythm, complex mathematical sequences repeating and evolving in ways that suggested intelligence rather than natural phenomena. "How long has it been broadcasting?" "That's the thing, Commander," Cade replied, tapping a series of commands into his console. "According to our analysis, this signal has been transmitting for approximately 7,000 years. The math doesn't lie. We're just the first humans to detect it." Elena felt a chill run down her spine, despite the bridge's regulated temperature. "And it's just now reaching us." Dr. Maya Chen, the ship's xenolinguistics specialist, approached with her tablet displaying additional data. "Not exactly, Commander. The signal appears to have activated. For millennia, it's been dormant, broadcasting at energy levels too low for detection. 3 days ago, something triggered it to increase output by a factor of 10,000. Elena studied the signal pattern more closely. Something about it seemed vaguely familiar, tickling at the back of her mind like a half-forgotten dream. "Any idea what it's saying?" Maya shook her head. "It's not a language in any conventional sense, more like a beacon or a key. The mathematical sequences embed what appear to be spatial coordinates, leading to a location in the Hybrid cluster, about 70 light-years from our position." 70 light-years, Elena murmured. "That's deep in contested space. The Galactic Coalition has been clear about humanity staying within our boundaries." The Galactic Coalition, an alliance of 17 spacefaring species, had discovered Earth 50 years ago. Their reaction to humanity had been anything but welcoming. Earth's high gravity, radiation levels, and extreme biodiversity had produced humans that were, by galactic standards, unnaturally resilient. Deathworlders, they called us. Dangerous, unpredictable, and to be contained rather than embraced. "Commander," called out Ensign Diaz from the communication station, "we're being hailed by a coalition vessel. They're demanding to speak with you immediately." Elena straightened her uniform. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing the insectoid features of a Nalthic diplomat. Ambassador Thriz's compound eyes reflected the light of his ship's bridge, mandibles clicking in what Elena had learned to recognize as agitation. "Commander Reyes," the translator rendered Thriz's clicks and whistles into smooth English, "you have detected the signal. This is most unfortunate." Elena kept her expression neutral. "Ambassador Thriz, I wasn't aware the Coalition was monitoring our research mission. All Deathworlder vessels are monitored, Commander, especially when they venture near the outer boundaries." The Nalthic's antennae twitched. "The signal you've detected is known to us. It is dangerous. You must cease all analysis immediately and withdraw from this sector." "With respect, Ambassador, we're well within Terran space as defined by the Concordat of 2156. The signal transcends territorial boundaries," Thriz replied. "It is ancient and malevolent. Your species lacks the context to understand the threat it represents." Elena folded her arms across her chest. "Then provide us with that context, Ambassador. What exactly are we dealing with?" The Nalthic was silent for a long moment, compound eyes unreadable. "I will rendezvous with your vessel in 6 hours. This discussion requires discretion. Maintain your position and continue no further analysis of the signal." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. "Well, that was informative," Dr. Chen remarked dryly. Elena turned to her senior staff. "Maya, keep working on the signal, but isolate the analysis on a closed system. Cade, run a full tactical scan of the area. I want to know if the ambassador is bringing friends. And Diaz, notify Earth Command of our situation." "You think the Coalition is hiding something, Commander?" Cade asked. Elena's gaze drifted back to the pulsing pattern on the screen. Ambassador Thriz was afraid. "I've never seen a Nalthic display fear before." She shook her head. "Whatever this signal is, the Coalition knows more than they're telling us. Let's find out what we can before they arrive." 6 hours later, Elena stood in the Aurora's conference room as Ambassador Thriz's shuttle docked with their vessel. To her surprise, the Nalthic wasn't alone. The airlock cycled open to reveal a delegation of 5 aliens representing different Coalition species: the insectoid Nalthic, a serpentine exervi, an amorphous Gelduan, a crystalline Talon, and a heavily armored Druthi. "Ambassador," Elena greeted them. "I wasn't expecting a full diplomatic contingent." "This is not diplomacy, Commander Reyes," Thriz replied. "This is survival. We are the Covenant of Watchers, a group that transcends normal Coalition politics." The exervi slithered forward, its scaled body iridescent under the conference room lights. "The signal you have detected activated precisely as our ancient texts predicted. It has awakened after 7 millennia of dormancy because a threshold has been crossed." "What threshold?" Elena asked. The Gelduan's body rippled, forming a mouth-like aperture to speak. "The presence of enough sentient minds within detection range. Specifically, minds of a certain configuration. Human minds," Elena realized, pieces falling into place. "The signal activated when our exploration reached this sector." "Yes," confirmed the Talon, its crystalline body chiming softly with each word. "Your species possesses uniquely chaotic neural patterns, what we would consider disordered and primitive. Yet this very chaos may be our salvation." The Druthi, standing nearly 3 meters tall and encased in natural armor plating, stepped forward with a heavy tread. "The signal comes from what our peoples call the Void Seed, an ancient entity that consumes consciousness, absorbing minds into its collective awareness, while leaving bodies as empty husks." Elena felt her blood run cold. "You're describing some kind of parasitic intelligence, a mind-controlling organism." "Far worse," Thriz clicked. "It is a predator that evolved to hunt sentience itself. Our histories tell of entire civilizations falling within days of exposure to its influence. The only defense was to flee. Then someone managed to contain it," Elena concluded. 7,000 years ago. "The progenitors," the exervi hissed reverently, "an elder race that sacrificed themselves to trap the Void Seed within a dimensional prison. The signal is an automated warning system, designed to activate should the prison begin to fail." The Talon's crystalline form pulsed with light. "Our analysis indicates the containment is weakening. The prison requires reinforcement, or the Void Seed will escape and begin feeding again." "And what does this have to do with humanity specifically?" Elena asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. The aliens exchanged glances before Thriz spoke. "Your chaotic neural patterns render you naturally resistant to the Void Seed's influence, where our minds are vulnerable to its harmonizing effect. Yours reject the pattern intrinsically." "You need us," Elena said. "That's why you're here instead of simply ordering us away." "The Coalition has been monitoring your species not merely out of fear, Commander," the Druthi rumbled, "but in preparation for this day. Earth was known to the progenitors. They left records suggesting that Deathworlder psychology might be the key to a permanent solution." Elena leaned forward, resting her hands on the conference table. "So the Coalition's containment policy wasn't about protecting the galaxy from humanity. It was about protecting humanity for the galaxy." "Both objectives were served," Thriz admitted. "Your species is indeed dangerous by our standards. But you may also be necessary. What exactly are you proposing? A joint mission. The Geldu unrippled. To the coordinates embedded in the signal. Your Aurora, escorted by our vessels. If the Void Seed's prison can be reinforced, catastrophe may be averted. Elena considered for a long moment. I'll need to consult with Earth Command. There is no time, the HFY hissed urgently. Already we feel the Void Seed stirring. Those of us in this room have been immunized against its initial influence, but the effect is temporary. In days, perhaps hours, coalition ships will begin responding to a call they cannot consciously perceive. You're asking me to divert from my mission without authorization, potentially triggering an interspecies incident. We are asking you to prevent the extinction of consciousness in this sector of the galaxy. Thriz countered. The Coalition Council will officially sanction this mission within the day, but we must depart immediately. Elena stood, decision made. Dr. Chen, notify the crew we're adjusting course. Lieutenant Cade, plot a transit to the coordinates embedded in the signal. She turned back to the alien delegation. If we're walking into danger, I want your vessels providing more than just escort. The Aurora is a research ship with minimal defensive capabilities. The Druthi inclined its massive head. The bulwark stands ready to defend your vessel, Commander. It carries weapons sufficient to deter most threats. Most threats, Elena noted, but not the Void Seed. Against that, Thriz clicked softly, weapons are meaningless. Our hope lies in your human minds and the legacy of the progenitors. As the alien delegation returned to their ships and the Aurora altered course, Elena stood at the viewport watching the stars elongate into streaks as they entered FTL. Whatever waited at those coordinates, humanity was about to step onto a larger galactic stage, not as the dangerous primitives to be contained, but as the salvation no one had expected. The irony wasn't lost on her. Earth's harshness, the very thing that had made the Coalition fear humanity, might be the crucible that forged their only hope against an ancient darkness. Deathworlders unleashed. The journey to the Hydra cluster took 3 days, even with the Coalition vessel's superior FTL technology boosting the Aurora's engines. 3 days of increasing tension as the Coalition representatives reported disturbing developments. Multiple ships throughout Coalition space changing course without authorization, communications becoming erratic, and isolated reports of crew members experiencing fugue states. The Void Seed's influence was growing stronger. Elena stood on the Aurora's bridge, watching the swirling nebula gases of the Hydra cluster fill the view screen. The coordinates had led them to a binary star system. One red giant and one white dwarf locked in a cosmic dance, their gravitational interaction creating a spectacular light show of superheated gas and radiation. Sensors are detecting a structure, Lieutenant Cade reported, his voice tight with concentration. Orbiting the white dwarf at a distance of approximately 80 million kilometers. On screen, Elena ordered. The image shifted, magnifying to reveal an artificial construction that defied conventional understanding. It resembled a massive polyhedron, each face inscribed with glowing symbols that pulsed in patterns reminiscent of the signal they'd been following. The structure was enormous, at least 50 kilometers across, and seemed to be made of a material that absorbed light rather than reflected it. That's not Coalition technology, Dr. Chen breathed. The architecture is unlike anything in our databases. The comm system chimed, and Ambassador Thriz's translated voice filled the bridge. The progenitor prison. It is as the ancient texts described. We must approach with caution. Elena nodded to Ensign Dias. Maintain open communications with all Coalition vessels. Cade, continuous sensor sweeps. I want to know if anything changes with that structure. As the small fleet moved closer, the prison's details became clearer. What had appeared to be a uniform surface was actually intricately patterned with trillions of microscopic circuits and symbols, forming a technological tapestry of staggering complexity. Commander, Cade called out suddenly, I'm detecting multiple vessels approaching from the outer system. Coalition ships, but they're not responding to hails. The influenced. Frizz clicked over the comm. They have arrived sooner than we anticipated. Elena moved to the tactical station. How many? 17 ships, Cade replied grimly. Mostly military vessels. Heavy armament. They'll intercept us in approximately 20 minutes. Can your ships handle them, Ambassador? Elena asked. There was a pause before Thriz responded, not without significant casualties. The influenced ships will have no concern for their own survival. Elena made a quick decision. Then we don't fight. We complete the mission before they arrive. She turned to her navigation officer. Lieutenant Park, full thrust toward the prison structure. Get us there before the influenced fleet can intercept. The Aurora surged forward, the coalition vessels matching their acceleration. As they closed distance with the progenitor prison, the structure's surface began to shift, sections rotating and realigning like an impossibly complex puzzle box responding to their approach. It's scanning us, Dr. Chen reported, studying her instruments, analyzing our biological signatures. A massive aperture opened in one face of the polyhedron, large enough to admit their vessels. It's inviting us in, Elena murmured. A response to human presence, Thriz theorized, just as the ancient texts suggested. The decision took only seconds. Take us in, Elena ordered. Coalition vessels to follow at their discretion. The Aurora entered the aperture, followed closely by the 5 coalition ships. Behind them, the opening sealed shut just as the first of the influenced vessels came within weapons range. Inside was a vast docking bay large enough to hold dozens of ships their size. The walls pulsed with the same symbols they'd observed outside, but here they flowed like liquid, rearranging themselves continuously. Breathable atmosphere, Cade reported with surprise. Gravity at 1.1 Earth standard, temperature 22 degrees Celsius. It's been calibrated for human physiology, Dr. Chen realized. Elena nodded. Assemble the away team. Full environmental suits as a precaution. Standard research and defense equipment. She tapped her comm. Ambassador Thriz, we're preparing to disembark. Will your delegation join us? We will, came the reply. But with a warning. The minds of my species are vulnerable here. If any of us begin behaving erratically, you must not hesitate to incapacitate us. The away team assembled in the airlock. Elena, Dr. Chen, Lieutenant Cade, and 2 security officers. They were met on the docking bay floor by Thriz and 1 representative from each coalition species. Together, they approached what appeared to be an entrance, a hexagonal doorway that dilated open at their approach. Beyond lay a corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly, the walls continuously morphing and reshaping themselves. As they walked, Elena noticed the patterns responded differently to the humans than to the aliens, flowing more rapidly and with greater complexity when she or her crew members passed. It recognizes us, she said quietly. Or at least, it recognizes something about our biology. The prison was designed to respond to Deathworlders. The Druthi rumbled. Your neural patterns trigger different protocols than ours. The corridor eventually opened into a massive chamber hundreds of meters across. In its center floated a pulsing sphere of darkness, so absolute it seemed to bend light around it. Surrounding the sphere was a complex arrangement of crystalline pylons, each emitting a beam of energy that connected to the sphere's surface. The containment system, Thriz clicked. And within it, the void seed. Elena felt a pressure against her mind, like the onset of a migraine. Looking at the sphere directly caused her vision to blur and her thoughts to scatter. She noticed her human crew experiencing similar discomfort, while the coalition representatives seemed entranced, their movements becoming increasingly sluggish. Commander, Dr. Chen said urgently, look at the pylons. 3 of them are dark. She was right. Of the 20 pylons surrounding the sphere, 3 had gone inactive, their crystals dull and lifeless. Where those pylons had failed, the darkness of the sphere seemed to bulge outward, straining against the remaining containment field. The prison is failing, The Talon chimed, its crystalline body vibrating with tension. Without all pylons active, containment will collapse within hours. How do we reactivate them? Elena asked. Before anyone could answer, a new voice echoed through the chamber, not a physical sound, but words forming directly in their minds. Deathworlders, you have come as predicted. A holographic figure materialized before them, humanoid but clearly alien, with elongated limbs and a head that featured 3 eyes arranged in a triangle. The being's skin appeared translucent, revealing a complex network of luminous veins beneath. I am Nexus, the custodial intelligence of this facility. The containment system requires renewal. 3 of the progenitors who maintained the pylons have perished. Their positions must be filled. Filled? Elena questioned. You mean replaced with living beings? The pylons require consciousness to function, minds capable of resistance. The progenitors sacrificed themselves to imprison the void seed, linking their consciousness to the containment system. As each has finally succumbed to entropy after millennia of service, their pylons have failed. Elena exchanged glances with her crew. You need 3 volunteers to... What? Die. Not die. Transcend. The mind remains active within the system, while the body is sustained in stasis. The progenitors foresaw this eventuality. They engineered your species specifically for compatibility with the pylons. This revelation sent a shock through both the human and coalition members. The progenitors created humanity. Dr. Chen asked, voice barely above a whisper. Guided your evolution. Earth was selected for its harsh conditions, which would naturally produce the neural complexity required for resistance to the void seed's influence. You are the contingency plan, activated now that the original guardians can no longer maintain containment. The Gelduin's form rippled agitatedly. This explains why the Coalition's oldest records marked Earth as protected. Our ancestors knew of the progenitor's plan. A violent shudder ran through the chamber. One of the active pylons flickered, its beam momentarily weakening before stabilizing again. Time grows short. Without new guardians, the void seed will escape. Once free, it will consume all sentient life in this galaxy within a century. Elena felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. 3 volunteers, she repeated, to remain here indefinitely, until replacement guardians can be trained or technological alternatives developed. The progenitors believed this might be possible within a human lifetime, given sufficient resources and cooperation. Another tremor, stronger this time. 2 more pylons flickered. Decide quickly. The influenced fleet attempts to breach the outer defenses. They are drawn by the void seed's call, unwitting servants of its hunger. Helena turned to her crew. Before she could speak, Lieutenant Cade stepped forward. I volunteer, he said firmly. I joined the defense fleet to protect humanity. This is just a broader interpretation of that oath. Dr. Chen joined him. I'll go too. My expertise in xenolinguistics might help me understand the progenitor systems from within. The 3rd volunteer came as a surprise. Ambassador Thriz stepped forward, mandibles clicking rapidly. The Coalition feared what humanity might become, the Nalthic said. We never considered what humanity was meant to be. I will stand with these humans and bear witness to the progenitor's wisdom. Nexus's holographic form bowed slightly. The volunteers will approach the dormant pylons. Your consciousness will be transferred into the containment matrix. Your bodies will enter stasis, preserved until such time as you can be reunited with them. As the 3 volunteers moved toward the darkened pylons, Elena addressed Nexus. What happens now? What do we tell Earth? The Coalition. The truth. That ancient guardians prepared for this day by creating humanity not as a threat to be feared, but as inheritors of a sacred duty. The Deathworlders were never meant to be contained. They were meant to be containment. The volunteers reached the pylons. Each one placed a hand on the crystalline surface, which began to glow at their touch. Elena watched as Cade, Chen, and Thriz were enveloped in light, their bodies lifting slightly off the ground as Energy coursed through them. The chamber rumbled again, but this time the darkness at the center recoiled as the newly activated pylons fired brilliant beams into the sphere. The containment field strengthened, the bulges of darkness receding. The transfer is complete. The containment is stabilized. The Guardians will now speak their final words before their consciousness fully integrates with the system. Lieutenant Cade's voice echoed in Elena's mind, calm and resolute. Tell Earth we finally found our purpose in the stars. We aren't meant to conquer the galaxy. We're meant to protect it. Dr. Chen's thoughts followed. The progenitors didn't just create us for this moment. They created us to evolve beyond it. Study this place. Learn from it. Find a way to free us someday. Finally, Ambassador Thriz's clicks and whistles translated into clear thoughts. Tell the Coalition Council that their fears were misplaced. The Deathworlders are not the threat. They are the shield. The quarantine of Earth ends today. Humanity must be welcomed as equals, as the inheritors, the progenitors, intended them to be. With those parting thoughts, the three volunteers' consciousness fully merged with the pylons, their bodies entering a crystalline stasis that would preserve them until technology or training could someday render their sacrifice temporary rather than permanent. Nexus turned to Elena and the remaining delegation. The influenced fleet has been neutralized. With the containment restored, their minds have been released from the Void Seed's call. They will recover, though they will remember nothing of their actions. What now? Elena asked. Now begins the age of guardianship. Earth must be informed of its true heritage and purpose. The Coalition must abandon its containment policies and welcome humanity as partners. Together, you will study this facility, learn the progenitors' knowledge, and develop technologies to permanently neutralize the Void Seed. This was always their intention, that their children would eventually surpass them. As Elena and the remaining delegates returned to their ships, she composed the message she would send to Earth Command, a message that would forever change humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. They had evolved on a crucible world not by chance, but by design. Their chaotic minds and resilient bodies weren't evolutionary accidents, but carefully cultivated tools for a purpose greater than they had ever imagined. The Aurora departed the progenitor prison with 2 fewer crew members, but carrying knowledge that would unite humanity and the Coalition in common cause. Behind them, the prison continued its silent vigil. 3 new Guardians joining the ancient Watchers who had sacrificed themselves to protect all sentient life. Humanity, the Deathworlders, had found their calling. Not as conquerors, not as threats, but as guardians against a darkness older than civilization itself. The signal that had drawn them across 70 light-years hadn't been a warning or a threat. It had been a summons home.